us that is conducting group work. So if that disturbs you, please let me know or let us know, write a text. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce the speaker today. Thank you. The speaker today is Professor Hawei, who's the Associate Dean, Associate Professor with tenure in the Education Policy and Management Unit at the Graduate School of Education of Beijing University. And his research interests concentrate on the effects of the mushrooming of new university campuses on local social and economic development in China. And this is a very important to introduce all of his accomplishments, but he received his degrees, master and bachelor degrees at Beijing University. And his PhD was received from the Kennedy School of Harvard University, one of the most prestigious institutions in the world in terms of development studies, particularly regarding international relations. Before Beida, he served as the policy assistant, senior policy specialist at the United Nations Development Program and the United Nations UNICEF Children's Education Fund, both in the United States and Africa for about 7 years. And he conducts many research projects with international development agencies. In fact, I had the pleasure of cooperating on a couple of Asian Development Bank programs with Professor Hawei over the years, particularly regarding graduate employment in China. So I am extremely honored that he's here today, and of course, Beijing University Graduate School of Education and the University of Hong Kong School of Education, or Faculty of Education, however you want to translate it, 教育学院, he's here today, which is a great thing. And I welcome those of you online and those of you here in person. And without further ado, Professor Hawei.
Thank you, Jerry, for the kind introduction and your invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here. As Jerry mentioned earlier, we have been working together for quite some time, but actually I consider Jerry as a mentor, guiding me through many of the myths in higher education, not only around the Asian area, but also globally. And we had a lunch discussion actually just now, and I learned more things I feel in the past hour also. So today, my topic is multiple pathways to triple helix. What can we learn from China? This work commissioned by the Chen Yidan Foundation. Actually, when it was first released last April, Jerry was there as one of the keynote speakers commenting on this piece of work. Many scholars are really interested in this topic. How can we mobilize universities, industries, and government together so that we can improve the economic competitiveness? And we all hear about triple helix, but actually it has a much longer, you can date it back to the 1960s when the Argentinian, Latin American scholar Sabato developed this Sabato triangle, where he emphasized the importance of government in building this local innovation or national innovation system. But in the 1980s, going on this success, post-war success and recovery of Japan, scholars like Nelson and Freeman developed this national innovation system. the emphasis there is on the private industries, enterprises, their role to initiate, import and modify the new technologies. If you look at the early 1990s, with the rise of the new economic topography and other the new growth theory, etc., people are starting to interest in how can we build a regional innovation system. So we go down one layer from national innovation to regional innovation system. And in the early mid-1990s, two scholars, Kovic and Leidensdorf, developed this triple helix model, drawing on the experience of the United States, in particular Silicon Valley and the Route 128. I think this should be 101 for all of us in education. UK and the status model, drawing on the experience of Soviet Union, French experience. But you also have a idealistic model, it's called balanced triple helix model, where the government, university, and industry work together. They play their own role, but they also play the role of the other, meaning that the government is not only providing the regulatory framework, and the enterprise is not just providing, producing services and products to the customers, and the university is not just training students. Instead, the government will become a public entrepreneur, and the industries will provide services and actually provide or turn them into a training institution and work with the university through technology transfers, and the university also getting involved in spinning off companies through their science and technology part. I will not go through. In 2008, they further developed this using this field theory, drawing on the electric field theory. So when when the government is too strong, then it falls into the status model. When the interaction among these three actors are too weak, you get laissez-faire model. So there are this model become very popular, but it has its own flaws. For example, some scholars like Professor Chai from Tampere University in Finland saying this lacks applicability in other institutional settings. Right? It draws on the US experience, especially in the knowledge production mode too. So it's not that relevant to developing countries. In fact, when I was invited to Asian Development Bank in 2016, there's one government official from Pakistan asked me, you talk about university industry linkage, but we don't even have industry. How can we build university industries? And this model also lacks macro theoretical foundations. It's highly abstract, right? How do you move across these three models? Or how do you strengthen their interaction using this field theory? This is Chinese history improving its innovativeness in the economy. I will not go through this point by point. I will jump into exactly our contribution. So here are some of the pathways we charted out. Not pathways, the status we charted out. First, you could have a single helix. When the first one is, we call it dream project, because government has an idea, but neither has industry base, nor it has any universities in that locality. On the other hand, you could have a situation we call it a brain drain. This region has strong universities, but the government doesn't have a plan to develop its economy, and the industries are non-existent. Or you could have a scenario where the industries are very strong, but the government doesn't have a plan, and the universities are non-present. So you have an industry solo. On the other hand, you could be in a situation where you have two Helix, right? The first one, we call it a mismatch industry demand because the government has a plan to develop its industry and it has relevant universities in that locality, but the industries are just not there. Or you could have both industries and the government plan in presence, but you just don't have good universities. And you can think of some examples in the Greater Bay Areas, right? Shenzhen in the 1980s. Okay? Or you could have a situation, both universities and the industry sectors are present and they work closely together. But the government planning, industrial policies are missing. This is very rare in Chinese settings. But of course, we have the balance. So now we turn the 3 models into 7 different scenarios. And it's interesting to look at these 2 together. This region will be in greater need of higher education resources. Whereas this region, or regions in this scenario, they have good universities, but they don't have industrial base to work with. So they would tend to leave the region. And where do they go? They would go to this region. That's why we see Harbin University of Science, Harbin Institute of Technology set up a campus in Shenzhen and also in Weihai. Right? In Weihai much earlier, but in 2002, Harbin Institute of Technology has a campus in Shenzhen. And there are many branch campuses. As Jerry mentioned earlier, this has been my research focus for the past 4 years, and I think this will be my focus research for the next decade or 2. Since 1999, China has built 1,600 new university campuses, and about 150 of them are campuses like this building in other provinces or other cities. But most of them are built around the cities where the old campus is. But when they expand, they can't afford to build new buildings around their old campus. So they have to go a bit further away into the suburban districts or counties. In addition to the 7 different scenarios, we also use this diagram to illustrate some of the pathways. Let's imagine a region where the government has a good industrial plan, but it never has good industries or universities. They have 2 different pathways to reach the balance or balance triple helix. The first filling the gap of the other of the remaining sector. Let's use some regional examples in China to illustrate this point. Let's start with my hometown. I grew up in Northeast China. I'm a minority Manchu, actually. In the right after the foundation of the PRC, the central government placed or located a large number of heavy industries, along with higher education, very high quality higher education systems in my area, due to the needs for war preparedness and construction of the planned economy. Of course, receiving a lot of Soviet aid, that area is geographically closer to Soviet Union. And this makes my hometown the heavy industry of China. So many universities, Harbin Institute of Technology, Northeast Institute of Technology, Dalian Institute of Technology, Jilin University, and the list goes on and on. However, after the reform and open up, and especially in the early 90s, China started to build the socialist market economy. The SOEs, the state-owned enterprises in Northeast China, start to lose its competitiveness due to the rise of township and village enterprises around the Changjiang River Delta and the private enterprises around the Greater Bay Area. So the central government also shifted its regional development strategies and giving priorities to the coastal areas. And why we didn't have any or had many top-notch universities along the coast in the first place? Yeah, the government was concerned that the Soviet Union will invade from the north and the US will invade us from the coast. So that's why no good universities were located on the coast. But now the story has changed. So not only universities are not located, there is no industry as well. But starting in the early 80s, the national regional strategies started to change. And the local government, they were locked in this past dependence, always heavy industry, lot of subsidy, lifetime employment and all that. So that also drags down the competitiveness of state-owned enterprises. So starting in the late 1990s, the government has had no choice but to privatize many of the state-owned enterprises. So the government Helix and the industry Helix started to collapse. And the only functioning Helix left is the universities. But as we demonstrated early on, all these universities now have strong incentives to leave the region and look for greener pastures. That's why I mentioned earlier, a very important example is Harvard Institute of Technology set up a campus in Shenzhen in 2002 or 2003. What am I doing in terms of time? It's already 1 o'clock. Okay, so I have to skip this example. This is another example whereby the government can establish this triple helix model in a short period of time under emergency. So this is the third front construction period whereby Mianyang became a technology hub for China between 60s and the early 80s. Having good universities and industrial base in an emergency setting is different from, it's not necessarily a bad thing for you, right? Let's use Shanghai and Beijing as an example. Let's start with Tongji University. This is drawing on Professor Chai's earlier work. In the 80s, with burgeoning real estate market in China, some faculties and students of Tongji universities started to establish companies on campus. And because Tongji had a very strong design and architectural, we talked about architecture early on, they have very strong disciplines in the architecture and design industry. So all these industries are in those areas. And in the early 90s, they started to move outside the campus and form an industrial cluster along the Chulfeng Road around the Tongji University. In 2003, there are 400 such companies, spin-off companies. And starting early 2000, the district government started to support the industrial clusters with land allocation and the reuse of vacant building and the preferential loans. So in 2009, this was included in the China Torch program. And as of 2021, they have 2,300 enterprises in this area. And let me check how much is their total annual revenue, I think in the order of several hundred billions Chinese yuan by now. Let me get the number for you. Oh, maybe later I will get you the number. Another more well-known example is the Zhongguancun area. In 1980s, Professor Chen Chunxian has visited Silicon Valley for several times, and he realized this is the key for the U.S. competitiveness. And he set up the first Advanced Technology Development Service Department of the Beijing Plasma Society in Haidian. And we all know Haidian is famous for IT. But in those days, Haidian boasts itself as the breadbasket for Beijing. So it's providing agricultural produce. Very quickly, 100 IT firms were set up in the Zhongguancun area. And in 1988, State Council officially approved the Zhongguancun Science Park. And in 2009, it was recognized as a National Innovation Demonstration Zone. Wuhan Optic Valley. This is slightly different from the other two. So the other two start with the university and then spin off companies, and then government provided policy support. But in Wuhan, it also draws on the good university base. But the industries start, the government started first. Sorry, this is a bit wrong. So it should be from university to university plus government. In 1983, the Wuhan government realized that the government want to prioritize information technology. So they heavily lobby the central government to use Wuhan city as experimental sites. And they set up this East Lake. I'm sorry, this is still on the road. So they set it up, this East Lake Technology Zone, Wuhan East Lake High-Tech Innovation Center in the 1983. And quickly, it was approved as a national high-tech zone in 1991 and become a national electronics industry base in 2001. And numerous optoelectronics firms have emerged. And right now, the total value for the East Lake Innovation Zone is about 240 billion. We mentioned that my region lost its competitiveness due to the rise of township and village enterprise. And this is where it is in southern Jiangsu province. And that's why it's called Sunan, because it's south of southern part of Jiangsu. Why the government have to be involved in setting up enterprises? Because right after the Cultural Revolution, no one wants to become an entrepreneur because it's very, very risky, right? So the township government actually organized capital, labor, and they appoint able managers to those companies to manage and to manage the township and the village enterprises. When I was in graduate school in the early 2000s at Harvard University, many people were debating whether it's the TVEs more competitive, more efficient, or the private enterprises in Jiangsu and Canton province. But in the 90s, many of them become privatized actually. And then in the 1994, Suzhou Industrial Park was set up jointly with the Singapore government. And since then, the main industries were dominated by foreign direct investment and foreign technology. I led a team of students and faculty to visit Suzhou last year. And the GDP of Suzhou city is around 2.3 trillion Chinese yuan. This is the largest prefecture level city in terms of GDP. But they have mixed.
60年代是合资企业的 time when the policies
Yeah.
foreign
Exactly.
industries, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But they kind of also got caught up in this past dependence, right? And they tried several times. In the early 2000s, they tried to attract Huawei or they tried to attract Microsoft to establish their headquarters or local branch companies there. And they say, what are you thinking about? You want to attract us? We don't even have a good university. So starting in 2000, they want to build a university town. They want to build a university town. So they tried several times. They have a relatively okay university, Suzhou University, right? Also part of the 211 project in China. But they tried to attract a Xi'an University. They were that close to seal the deal. But then again, the the city of Xi'an University refused. They wouldn't let them go to set up a new campus in Suzhou. So that's why we have Xi'an Liverpool University. This is a way of bypassing, but not throwing all the baby altogether with the bathwater, right? So they turned it into this, but this is not a research university.
No.
This is just for more like an undergraduate training, undergraduate teaching. And then they have, in 2007, they have Renmin University campus in Suzhou, but it's focused on international law, not necessarily helping Suzhou so much to upgrade their industry. And then they have Kunshan, I went there as well. The facility are really, maybe better than American universities. Sorry to say that.
But it's mostly undergraduate.
Again, yeah, it's like undergraduate. They have like only a couple of thousand students by now. So it's not helping either, right? Maybe it's a good brand for Suzhou or for Kunshan, but not helping the industry upgrade. Finally, well, there was another failed attempt in one of the city under Suzhou, a county level city called Taita. They want to attract Xibei Gongye Daxue, Northwest Institute of Technology. But then the government said no. Last fall, finally, Nanjing University set up its campus in Suzhou. And this time they have 4 major areas: AI, the chip industry, the chip engineering, and I can send you the PPT. There's another example in Quanzhou, Fujian. Here the story is slightly different because in Sunan model, the governments start first to set up the industries, and then they try to attract other universities to set up local branches. Whereas here, they started with industry, with overseas Chinese diaspora's investment. So they set up light industries like in textile, clothing, footwear, and you can see the brand names. I hope you guys can recognize at least some of them, right? Anta, this 7 Wolves, Tebu, and etc. And the Xinjiang government under Quanzhou provided the permissions for them to raise capital, to hire, and to develop to protect and develop this grassroots economy. Starting in 2010, the local government realized that, or set up this industrial plan. They want to develop the microelectronic industry. And when they talk to other collaborators or existing big players in this industry, they got mocked. You guys are just they made serious attempts. So they have one. They have set up Fuzhou University set up a Xinjiang campus in 2018, and the Chinese Academy of Science set up an intelligent manufacturing college there in 2020. And the U.S. sued one of the U.S. companies sued one of these joint ventures in Xinjiang for intellectual property theft or whatever in 2018. And well, that joint venture, maybe I'll talk about it. That joint venture was between the one Taiwan company and Huawei. That's why this got into the lawsuits. Early this year, or maybe last month, they won the lawsuits, but they lost 6 years of time. And the amount of investments involved are gigantic. So had Xinjiang, the story is, had Xinjiang had good university base in the area of computer science and electronics, the story would have been different. Because they need to rely on Taiwan technology, and then the US would sue because the Taiwan technology involves US component. The earlier two examples, Sunan and Xinjiang, are good examples whereby the rural areas become more developed. And let's look at several cases of other coastal areas. The first one is Yantai, city of Yantai, from Shandong province. In early 1990s, several private companies were set up. Rongchang Pharmaceutical, Lüye Pharmaceutical, and CSTS Pharmaceutical. And these companies were set up by former state-owned enterprise employees or former researchers from the public research institute. And you have to remember that this is the area where, this is the time where China announced we are serious about building socialist market economy, and actually encourage public employees to swim in the sea, 下海 is the area. And that's the background. All these companies, private companies were set up. Again, similar to other stories, after a few years, these companies have proved that they are vibrant, they are viable. But in order to improve its competitiveness, they need to have good research staff. When they attract research staff, say, no, you're a private company. I wouldn't trade my lifetime employment contract with a slightly higher salary, but job insecurity. Yeah. So what they did, the Lüye Pharmaceutical talked to Yantai University president. Let's put money to set up a school of pharmacy in your university. I will pay half, and your university come up with the other half. And the two sides shook hands in 2000. In that school, the faculty will get two salaries. One as a research staff from the private enterprise, and one from the university. Until today, the faculty still get two salaries, and they get they have to play two roles, of course. In 2002, the Yantai government invited the Binzhou Medical University to set up a local branch. And Rongchang Pharmaceutical took a different route. They recruited Dr. Fang Jianming, a long-time diaspora working in the United States, to become their top scientist, but also their largest science shareholder of the company. So they eventually give away the control of the company to this researcher in 2008. And since then, the government has continuously shifted its strategy from ordinary to biopharmaceutical to biomedical now in the last 5-year plan. Shenzhen, I don't have to. Yeah, Shenzhen, I don't have to talk too much about. You all know its history. Well, it used to be a fishing village, and in 1980 was Shenzhen Special Economic Zone was established, focusing initially on labor-intensive industries and this carry trade. There were only 2 universities: Shenzhen University in 1983 and Shenzhen Vocational College in 1993. But fast forwarding into the late 1990s and early 2000s, Shenzhen started to have a vibrant IT cluster, including Tencent, Huawei, ZTE, etc. And they have more and more universities. Now they have 14 universities. And the aim is to have 25 universities by 2025 or 2030. So again, just to summarize some of these examples, there are different pathways you can go. Right? For example, Beijing Zhongguancun Tongji started with university and then spin off some companies, and then later on government provided strong support. Whereby Wuhan is slightly different. The government took the driver's seat in the process. And Yantai started with industry. Shenzhen is the government has the design or the planning, and then the industry developed, and then they establish more high quality, top-notch universities. Okay, so each region or country must choose its own development path based on its endowment and its context. And this innovation race requires continuous and more powerful policy support for the upgrading of regional industries. In 2019, 2 MIT professors wrote a book. Jonathan Gruber and Simon Johnson wrote a book called Jumpstarting America. Basically, using America as a bigger case study, arguing that in the Second World War, actually Cold War era, the government played a very important role in building national innovation system through public research funding. And now the US should do more in order to improve the industrial competitiveness of the United States. Not just relying on the West Coast and East Coast. And also, there are some misunderstandings about China's innovative practice, and which are generally believed to be government-led. And as we can see in the example, Yantai and Xinjiang, it's the industries took the lead in the beginning. The 4th point is the government could establish an effective regional innovation system through a statist model in a state of emergency, but it may be weak to adapt to rapid technology changes, right? In the example of my hometown, and to extend of Mianyang in Sichuan province, all illustrate that point. Last but not least, triple helix theory is not only applicable to the development of high-tech industries under the knowledge production mode 2, but also it has implications to understand the critical role of human capital and the government in promoting industrialization during the economic takeoff. I hope this can answer some of the questions that I got from ADB's visits by this Pakistan colleague, okay? And this is all I want to say. Thank you very much. And, hopefully help me to improve this study. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Holloway. This is a fascinating and extremely important topic for China's sustained economic development. the changes, for those of you online and here, you can see how rapid and dynamic the relationship is between universities, industries, and government. And I think what Professor Holloway has brought out very clearly is there is no one particular paradigm that should be applied throughout the country. Maybe that was the case in the early days, in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, but no longer. And it's still a very dynamic area. And there is some, of course, there's a very important relevance for Hong Kong's current Greater Bay Area initiative, which still hasn't exactly solidified very well. So his papers, and I did mention, by the way, he's the associate editor of the International Journal of Educational Development, which is very well known around here, as well as the Journal on Finance and Policy. And he's very much of a policy expert. So I think we've learned a lot from this, particularly, as he says, because from the overseas view, particularly my colleagues who study education and industry in the United States, the focus in the questions about statism, the turn to a very statist policy, and whether or not the statist turn enables it to respond, quickly. But I think what I'm getting is that, and this is maybe the question, just to say statism is a very simple concept, a simple idea. It's not, to me, as I read through the literature and I was in Chongqing and I was in Guangzhou and of course Shenzhen. It's just not one thing. It's just not the state. The state actually cooperates very closely with the market, but in certain places, not as much, and in certain places, much more. And so the question is kind of, how does someone who sees, well, the reform over 40 years was very open and market oriented, and most of the jobs were from private industry, and most of the tax money the government's collecting was from private industry. And now that that's changed, the perspective from outside is, I think it's a bit simple. It's that, well, now it's all state-run enterprises that are determining everything. Privatization is not. But how do you conceptualize what's happening as we see the turn, say, from 2015 to 2025? And how do you see 2025 to 2035? And so I don't know if that's a good question, but I'll leave with the first question and then we can open it up to our colleagues here at the University of Hong Kong and then to the online colleagues.
Thank you, Jerry, for the question. I think things are not always black and white, but we tend to, because it's easier for people to understand, right? If you have a simple summary of one country's experience, it will be easier for the audience to understand. But actually, as I demonstrate using just 7 or 8 case studies, things are not that simple. You cannot use one sentence or one paragraph or even one paper to summarize China's development. The country is so big and so that the development experience are so diverse. Northeastern China, where I come from, completely different from where I stand here, the Greater Bay Area, and the Southwest is a different area. The Northwest is different. But it's fair to say that you need to leverage your unique positions and your endowments, and with some physical human and creativeness to build regional innovative systems. And from the central government perspective, I think they need to give the localities more autonomy and more way of saying. The example I talk about in Taicang, the Xibei, the Northwest Universities of Technology, have had to stop the construction of their local campus in Suzhou due to central government restrictions. Because, well, it's not entirely not unjustified, because when many universities want to set up many branch campuses along the coast of China, it's also quite chaotic. Right? Everybody wants to leave Northeast China or Northwest China. But in 2011, the central government says, no university could leave those regions, those remote and economically relatively backward regions. But that created a new trouble for China, for the coastal areas. They couldn't, it will take much longer time for the coastal regions to set up good universities on their own. It's better to attract other universities to locate in their region.
Can I try to simplify? Oh, sorry, I tried to get another microphone, but it didn't work. Can I try to simplify the question? So although there's more of a status turn, there's more of an allocation of decision rights to the provincial level authorities with respect to industrial development and relationships. So the central government is only very active when it comes to, for example, we need to build a new university, and the allocation of the funding, only the central government can afford at certain levels. Would you say that? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, sometimes it involves central government funding, but most of these local branch campuses were financed by the local government.
Not cost sharing, just provincial.
Most of them, especially costs. The operating costs may be shared. For example, the Nanjing University campus in Suzhou, the construction costs, the estimated cost for that is around 10 billion Chinese yuan. 100 亿. And the first phase is 3 billion. So the first phase is already finished. And for the next 5 years, the Suzhou government will provide 500 million Chinese yuan every year in the next 5 years for the operating cost. But I don't think that will be sufficient. So Nanjing University also has to pitch in a bit of money.
From Jiangsu.
From Nanjing, city of Nanjing. And of course, being a national university, some of the money has to come from central government one way or another.
Right. Thank you.
Especially after the initial 5-year period, then the Suzhou municipal government may not want to provide this support indefinitely. So at some point, they may say you have to be on your own.
Generate revenue.
Generating revenue at some point. And actually for the Nanjing University campus, the provincial government also will help the Suzhou municipal government.
Right.
Well, thank you so much. It was really fascinating. All the examples are really like different scales, right? Big scale and all interesting questions, but I will. Dynamics between provinces, are they in a kind of a competition, like to get more resources from central government, or are they kind of coordinated by central government by their own specialization, unique advantage that they have? So how this dynamic works between provinces, that's number one question. Number two question, it's about role of the vocational higher education institutions in China. I know they have a huge number of these vocational institutions, higher educations. Are they this part of Helix plans? They are not research university, but they are very much technology innovation based. So what's their role, vocational institutions? Number three question, I see this article a lot these days. high unemployment rate of graduates in China. It's big thing now, with social issues. I was wondering whether these kind of policies include this labor market, job creation, local labor market to bring and create more jobs for university graduates. Whether there is some sort of kind of relationship with the labor market. That's my question. Sorry to ask you so many questions.
Okay. Thank you so much for this question, very relevant. Actually, I'll start backwards. To your last question, high employment risk of Chinese college graduates. Jerry and I and with other colleagues, we produced a report on this for Asian Development Bank and the Ministry of Education in China. The government has made a series of attempts to solve this problem. But as you can imagine, every year there are more than 10 million, or in the recent years, more than 10 million graduates. So, you know, in labor economics, we call it frictional unemployment. Some of these are due to mismatch, really mismatch. It will take more time for the graduates to find their job. And if we could have more functional triple helix regional innovative examples like this, I think that will sort of help the unemployment issue. So that's the relevance to this presentation. Vocational higher education system. The government, Chinese government has a strong focus actually on vocational education system. I talk about 1,600 university campuses, and maybe 40% of them are for the vocational colleges. And they play an important role in training the labor force. I mentioned that the coastal areas still don't have sufficient quality higher education system, but they have good vocational higher education system because it's cheaper and easier to construct. You know, any of these coastal cities, Foshan, Dongguan, Quanzhou, they have very good vocational higher education system compatible with their local industrial needs. But when you think about research universities, it takes much longer. It takes much more money to build. And competition among provinces, of course. That's why the provinces or cities hosting high quality research universities don't want to see them leaving their city. And even the coastal provinces, they're competing among themselves to come up with a better deal for those universities to be located in their region. But that's good, right? That means beat up the price for higher education resources. And for graduates as well, in the last 10 years also, you see many Chinese cities attracting
Talent skills.
Yeah, attracting talents, providing housing subsidies.
Question?
Thank you, Professor Han. Because I graduated from Xi'an Jiaotong University, I received my bachelor's degree there. And I know Xi'an has many universities, right? Like Nanjing, Beijing, and Wuhan.
Yeah.
And but I observed that like Xi'an Jiaotong University, when I was there, it's ranked like top 10. But over the past 20 years, the ranking declined until more recently it seems increasing a little bit. So I wonder how is Xi'an similar or different from other big cities in China? And for Xi'an Jiaotong University, is the decline of ranking related to the industry element behind? or it's just because of the university itself?
Right. This is a very good point. In the 1950, the Chinese government reshuffled all the industries and the higher education resources, and Xi'an, being one of the hubs in the northwest, received a lot of higher education resources. Xi'an, Jiaotong, and Northwest Institute of Technology, and many others. But just like my home region, in the early days of economic reform and opened up, we fell behind in terms of economic development. And Xi'an Jiaotong wanted to leave, but was refused by the Xi'an and the Shanxi provincial government. Some were saying that this relative decline of Xi'an Jiaotong University was due to the fact that you guys didn't have a local campus in the coastal area at the time. A good example would be, a good comparison would be Harbin Institute of Technology, right? They have two campuses along the coast, one in Weihai and one in Shenzhen. So some people were saying, because they have a local campus in the coastal area, they could attract talents, not necessarily work in Harbin, but work in Shenzhen and Weihai. Xi'an Jiaotong has a local branch campus called the Xi'an Chuangxingang,
Yes.
Xi'an Innovation Harbor or something, under President Wang Shuguo, who just resigned as the president, right? And many people believe that that is the new model for China's higher education. So fingers crossed, and the Xi'an Innovation Harbor will herald the new development for Xi'an Jiaotong University and Xi'an.
Thank you.
Thank you, because this raises a lot of questions. And it has something to do with competition as well. So what I wanted to ask is, because I noticed all of Hong Kong's universities now, except the University of Hong Kong, have already established their campus across the border. Okay, now that's every major university in a city has actually moved into another region. We call it Greater Bay North, Greater Bay South. But you brought the example of Xi'an Jiaotong. And then there's also, Wuhan University partners with Kunshan, and then there's let me see, which is the other one? There are several of the campuses. Your campus has one in Shenzhen, I think, right? Okay, so you get a lot of this. What I'm wondering about is, it's really the main campus where all of the research and development, high-level research occurs. When I look at the branch campuses, it seems to me that there are two reasons. One is a presence, we're there. So just like, Harvard University doesn't have a campus in China, but they have a big office in Shanghai, and you ask them why. They say, we have to be in China because we want to know what's happening and we want to be ready if there's something. So my impression with the branch campuses is really they're just to be there and also to Hong Kong's campuses make a lot of money. And it's easier to operate from the Hong Kong situation on the other side of the border and attract students from there. So does it really apply to branch campuses that much? For example, are the branch campuses really connected to industrial parks? Now, maybe 10 years down the line or 20 years down the line, they will roll in, who knows what so this is an interesting question for us because we have all the campuses moving over. In fact, our university doesn't know what to do. If we go, we know we must go there, particularly in education. Let's put it there. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. You always ask tough but interesting questions. I think the short answer is Hong Kong, you need to go.
What?
Hong Kong, you need to go to the mainland. You asked, it may take 10 or 20 years to have an effect. So why the localities would want to have such branch campuses, right?
Yeah,
In my other research, more quantitative empirical research, we have shown that for the college graduates, so in terms of the skills development, it only takes 3-4 years for the localities to improve the shares of their labor with higher education degrees. So meaning, once you set up a branch campus, some of them will stay in your city. And that's what the cities want, right? So right now they attract the university or graduates from all over China. But now they have one campus in the city. They know 30-40% of them will stay after graduation. So you already have a big number of people, to attract talent. And secondly, this branch campuses, according to our empirical research, will also translate into more private enterprises, especially in the knowledge-intensive sector, but not so much in the we call it second industry, like a manufacturing. Actually, it will crowd out when you have a branch campus. You will crowd out the manufacturing industry, meaning that having a local branch campus will help you upgrading your economy. So from the second to the third, and also to the knowledge-intensive industry. So the cities, the officials, they are quite smart. They know they are killing many birds with this one stone. Not to mention that when you have branch campuses, or even better, when you have a university town, you increase the property values of your land. That's much more immediate, actually. According to my research, one of my doctoral students studied this area, and she showed that even the announcement of construction of branch campus will affect your land price. You don't even have to wait until 3-4 years after the graduates to be on the market. The effect is immediate.
so city government, the benefit for the land prices is city government.
Yeah. So they could put let's say 200 million Chinese yuan to construct a campus, a small, maybe 200 acres. That's 200 million, right? You think, oh, that's a big investment, but just the appreciation of the land values around the campus, they could recoup their investment. So the city government are very well. Of course, this is before COVID, right? Now the property market in China is a bit in a flux. So, but in the old days, this is a working model. Yeah.
Thank you. When you mentioned the Shenzhen case, and they plan to open 11 more universities, 14 more universities in the coming years. I was wondering, what's the plan to recruit the students? Because including China, a lot of universities, they will have difficulties to recruit enough number of students with a declining population. Whether the state government or central government have this long-term projection or number of students, because what if you open 14 universities now, and after 15, 20 years, you don't have enough students. That's what's happening in a lot of countries now. So what's this plan of opening 14 more universities?
Very good and relevant question. In 2000, the latest projection is start. But with all the cohorts, all the students in the cohort of 2040, maybe not enough to staff the Chinese universities. That's the national picture, right? Population is declining and the higher education enrollment may go down in 2040, but across Chinese regions, the picture will be different, and across different layers of the higher education pyramid, the situation will be different. For example, bigger university, Hong Kong U, will never had a problem of admitting or attracting students, right? But the vocational higher education institutions you talked about earlier, they may face serious challenge, financial problems. So I wouldn't encourage the Chinese government to further expand in that in the remote region or economic backward regions of China and for the tertiary or vocational sector.
Would you say Shenzhen
Shenzhen
is developing
yeah, the population will be
increase?
growing and expanding. If not local population growth, but it will attract other regions population.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big question and you answered it. To me, I have a pretty optimistic look at this because what you have happening at the same time that the population is changing and you have so many second and third tier colleges is that the proportion, the number of PhDs being produced around the country, and we know that from here, our PhD students usually had no problem getting a postdoc at Beidou or Tsinghua with no publications. And graduate, now they need 5, 10 publications and not even to get, that kind of a job anymore. But what I'm seeing with all of the doctorates being produced and the caliber of teaching and learning going up because all universities now seem to be having centers for the promotion of teaching and learning, that the entire system quality can only go up. And what happens when the population goes down? So on the one hand, the quality goes up because you have more people with higher caliber qualifications. And number two, as the population shrinks, you just merge institutions. You two colleges move into one. So you're really slimming down and the quality goes up. So in that sense, it seems to me at least, and of course you high technology, future AI and so on, I don't see that as a problem. What I see is the challenge is what you're looking at is the kind of what you call an ADB called the ecology of institutions. How do you know how much of a vocational technical college, how much of a sort of a general language focus on foreign languages or foreign relations, or how much to focus on research in AI. Some institutions may just be focusing on that in the STEM fields. So for each region, especially when the province begins to handle much more of the layout of the different colleges and universities, how do you get the right ecology? Maybe that question is not it's not a fair question, but anyway, thank you. Sorry,
It's another tough question. But I just want to comment on the earlier response or comment by Jerry about this population decline and improving the quality. The teacher faculty ratio can also come down to accommodate some. Right now our ratio may be 15 to 1.
15 1.
Whereas in Hong Kong U is
10
10 to 1. So we can come down to Hong Kong U level, right?
That's interesting.
But it might be merging is another good example, and China has done that in the past. In the 80s and up to the late 90s, we have merged. But Jisung's point is also well taken because it involves a waste of public resources. Right? So in one of my articles published on the Journal of Educational Research in China, I provide one policy recommendation that make your facilities multi-purpose.
Yes.
What?
Multi-purpose.
Oh,
So that later on, 20 years down the line, it can be turned into old age housing. And the editor says, how come this comment is relevant to your paper? I said, well, you will see, but that was published in 2020. The population decline is not so much on the news pipeline, but these days.
No.
On the ecology, yeah, that's a tough one. How do you build ecology? Well, we had this conference, university industry linkage. The industry needs to come forward and work with the university to better project the labor demand. But now with AI coming in, no one knows really how to project any labor demand, right? Which industry, what kind of job will be available. But being an old age helper, I think that's for sure. AI will take a long time for AI to replace old age helper. And ADB has this not fantasy is not the right word, but they like this labor market information system everywhere in their technical vocational education loans. They provide this. They insist this has to be part of the deal. Labor market information system, meaning that you will record and get all the information from the institute in terms of your labor demand, and then that can be fed into your vocational higher education system to plan your curriculum, your admission numbers. But it's easier said than done.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you, this is a really fascinating area, to talk about. Now, by 2040, China will have the highest proportion of the world's highly educated. I think it's something like 14%. India will be maybe 12, and the US at 11. So we're going to see lots of changes in terms of educated labor force. The only question that is a puzzle to me that I think about a lot is the regional situation. I saw an article today that Korea has a school that's kind of trying to train some of the graduates in China, or maybe the secondary school graduates, so they can learn certain skills to come back into the labor market. So it's a lot of labor market issues. So as of now, China has the third largest number of international mobile students. And that's going to increase because they're coming from Belt and Road countries in greater and greater numbers. And so, well, what does this mean for the labor market? And do you see, for example, Belt and Road countries starting to also open up campus? I mean, it used to be the Western universities, NYU and Duke. So in terms of industrial development, because the Belt and Road, it really should be helping the domestic economy of the provinces. How should we think about that? Now, not in the long-term future, but how do we think about the impact in terms of technical labor from Belt and Road, or does it go in the other direction? I mean, is it going to be graduates will go there and work, but there's so many coming in, but you don't want to keep them. You want to send them back, right? So anyway, this is again, it's one of those questions I think about a lot. It's probably very difficult it's a future question, but it seems like 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road would be.
Thank you, Jerry. We should write a paper on this. How to deal with that. So we used to have 500,000 international students before the pandemic, and now the number gets up and it's bouncing back after
for sure.
After COVID. What do we do with the talent? China is a more like a homogeneous country, right? We have multi-ethnicity, but we don't have multi-race. So looking forward, I think China needs really, in order to become a global competitive economy, actually China needs foreign talent. But the region of
What level? Yeah.
yeah, just like Japan and South Korea before us in terms of economic development, we had a hard time of attracting or they call it acculturation, right? Using the sociology word.
Right, culture.
Actually, I'm supervising a Korean doctoral student just to looking at these multicultural students in South Korea. Yeah. And South Korea didn't open entirely, but they used the multicultural students, meaning that the mother may come from other Asian countries, but the father is Korean. Normally in the rural area, harder to find them.
Like,
Like, what situation will China be? I think it will be difficult for China to become United States or French or other Western countries attracting huge numbers of talent, but they should. Yeah, that's why I said we should write a paper together. You know, China should attract foreign talent, but realistically, it may be difficult. Chinese university have said 1,600 French companies within China, but in the last 10 years, they're also trying to go abroad.
Right.
Xiamen University has one in Malaysia. Tsinghua has one in the United States. Peking University has one in Oxford, and some others. But more recently, the vocational colleges actually are also setting up campuses overseas. I haven't visited any of them, so I cannot speak, or you have a...
I just want to say, I know that the private companies in China that run higher education, that run bachelor degrees, the China-based companies have campuses in Australia and the UK. And I think if it wasn't for the atmosphere, there would be more. Because why not? I mean, because the colleges overseas are getting so many students from China that some of them take out insurance policies on the number of students from China in case there's a problem and all of a sudden half of their students are gone because of maybe a problem between the US and China. So they have an insurance policy. Oh, yeah, because so much of their future relies on students from China. You've got colleges like that, and some of the big ones as well. So anyway, but that's another question. I want to wrap up by saying, yes, we should do some cooperative research, particularly on these questions, both within our faculty and across faculties. So I hope today is a good start for that. And really, Howie, I've seen your research over the years develop and progress, and you're really at the top of the line, breaking into the frontier. And you're doing some amazing research with output that's going to have strong implications for everybody. So I want to thank you for coming. You know, this is really good.
Thank you very much, Jerry. And please invite me back.
yes, yes, yeah.
Yes.